Okay, so once again, we have a assessment tomorrow. So this is your second of two types of problems that you're going to see. So yesterday represented the first 5 questions. Today represents the second 5. We have been faced with application problems already, and many of you attempted to kind of hide from the problems that we're doing to see today. Luckily, math moves in circles, so this lesson will actually help you with some of those problems, and hopefully you can go back and make some of the stuff up once it makes a little bit more sense. I do understand I'm absent, but again, I'm not the type to allow you to make any excuses. So, I understand there's going to be a few things that you do that are outside the lines, but just make sure you take care of business, because if tomorrow's quiz pops up and you were here today and yesterday, I don't want to hear anything about you saying you weren't ready. So just make sure, again, you have a solid lesson and a lot of practice, especially on the Math Excel. So be sure to do your job, because again, we will move on today to the quiz, and then we move on to our next quiz or assessment after that. So again, if you have a passing grade right now, you might have a little room, but there's a lot of you who might want to focus as much as possible, because there's no telling what might happen if you decide to take today off and have a bad quiz. We learned a while ago that the words per and each tend to indicate that the value should be multiplied by a variable. Some of the problems that you'll see only have one of those words in it. Others will have two. So let's just get right to it and see what we're looking at here. It'll be a word problem, and it'll pretty much have you write an equation to represent the situation, and it'll have you graph the actual equation. So Terry purchased a number of shirts for $4.50 each. He had a coupon for $5 off. Write an equation to represent the situation, then graph the equation. First off, there's only one of these words here, and it's $4.50 each, which means that $4.50 is, of course, my rate of change. The coupon for $5 off means I'm going to take $5 off of the price. Again, typically whenever there is only one variable, it's going to be y equals mx plus b, some sort. But again, doesn't mean that's always going to be a plus. It just means that's typically your ideal situation. So you have y equals 4.50x, and again, it's $5 off, which means you're going to take $5 off of that price. Again, $4.50 per shirt, and take $5 off the price. Again, not bad to understand, as long as you, again, pay attention and try to make sure you understand it. Again, that's your equation. Now they want us to graph it. And when you graph it on your computer, the key thing you want to understand, I've seen a lot of people ask this question, so I think a lot of you understand it, is the -5 as you graph tells you to go down 5. 450 as your slope means go up 4.5 and then go over 1. And from what I remember, this graph actually has it set up to where you can actually go up a half. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half and over 1. And again, the computer is set up nice enough to where, as long as you have your information there and you know exactly where you're supposed to go, it works out that way. Again, notice I went to a half. I didn't go up 4 and over. It's up 1, 2, 3, 4. The 50 cents, whatever, is half up, and then move over 1. That should be all you have to do. I don't think it gets more complex than that, but again, the key thing is you have to make sure you understand which one gets the variable, and the fact that since there is one variable, that we're in slope-intercept form on that problem. Another question says Joseph rented a bicycle from a shop for $3 per hour and one-time fee of $5. They want an equation to represent the situation. Again, I see a per here, and I don't see anything else, which means that, again, we see one variable, which means we're going to do y equals mx plus b again. This, of course, 3 per hour is going to be my rate of change, and it is also a one-time fee. Now that adds on to my price, and because it's a one-time fee, we're going to add 5 to that. Then they want to graph the graph for the situation. So again, what we do here is we represent the 5 by going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up, and the 3 represents 3 over 1. So from that 5, go 1, 2, 3 up, 1 over, and that would be the graph that you are looking for. I don't know if it'll have you go all the way through it, but again, if you do that tomorrow and it goes all the way through, you'll be fine on that. I'll let it go, but for the most part, just make sure you understand how to graph that appropriately. Taking the 3 per hour as your 3x, and your one-time fee adds on, whereas on the other one it took off. So make sure you read it carefully and know exactly what's going on. Graphing is still an important skill. Be sure to understand we're using the same training we've been working on for the past few weeks. We will still use the y-intercept first, and then we'll use the rise over run for the second point. That is not going to change. But as it was stated earlier, there are some problems that have 2 per or each statements, and what this means is that both values should get a variable. When this happens, we have to consider that there is a second type that we worked with, which was the ax plus by equals c. That was standard form. And so if you see two numbers that have each or per, then what you do is you attach each one to a variable and put the constant over here. That's usually like a total of some sort. So again, make sure you jot that down for yourself. If you have two eaches or two pers, it's going to look like that. If you have one each or per, it's going to look like this. So again, that's the difference between the two problems. Again, remember that we use the x and y intercepts to graph this type of line. I think the setup is simple enough to do, but again, it's just going to take some discipline and some work to get used to the wording and the process. So again, let's just get right to it and see what we can do. It says that a football stadium sells hot dogs for $4 and drinks for $6. They made $48 in profits. It wants you to sketch a graph of the situation if they sold X hot dogs and Y drinks. Now it's important that you pay attention to what X is and what Y is, because you have to attach it to this part there. Again, it says they sell hot dogs for $4 and drinks for $6. Now I didn't say each, but it is $4 each and $6 for each drink. So therefore, that is going to get multiplied, because it's going to be $4 per X for hot dogs and $6 per Y. So what you do now, again, understanding that it's got an AX plus BY equals C set up. Again, X is hot dogs. Hot dogs are $4, so it's going to be 4X. Y is drinks. Drinks is $6, so plus 6Y equals your total again, which is usually what that C represents, so it'll equal 48. So again, 4x plus 6y equals 48. $4 per hot dog plus $6 per drink equals $48 of profits. Alright, that's the equation you're going to use. But when they want you to graph it, what you have to do is actually use the intercepts, because remember, this is not your slope-intercept form. This is the one where you ignore y and simply find the x-intercept. If 4x equals 48, then you realize that x is equal to 12, and so you go to where x is 12, which is here, and then you ignore the x, so you get 6y equals 48, which means when you divide by 6 that y is equal to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And your graph, I'm sorry, I'm freehanding this, but it's something like that. That would be the graph that you draw, and that would represent the graph of the situation. You have a lot of different combinations of things that go on there, and that's what that graph allows us to see. Okay, so again, the key thing is X is hot dogs, attach it to the 4. Y is drinks, attach it to the 6. Use the intercepts, graph it. Again, I really honestly believe that most of this stuff is review, and I think that the people who are having issues, it's because you did not do your job before, and it's kind of coming back to haunt you. But again, the good news is you can still make the stuff up. So if today's lesson gives you something that you can use that to make up a quiz before school, after school sometime, but you probably won't have time unless it's on a quiz day like tomorrow, to where you can actually make up a second one. But again, I'm not going to give you the password, because we're not doing that anymore. This one says a salesman was selling two types of gift cards. Red card was $16, green card for $10. Overall, he was able to make $160 for the day. Again, they just want a sketch of the graph. So the equation really isn't important, but we need the equation to graph it. So again, what we have to do is understand that X this time is actually green cards, so be careful, and Y is the red cards. So the green ones are $10 each, so we will put 10X this time, and 16 for the red card, right? So it'll be plus 16Y equals the total, which is 160. Again, I don't think the setup is tough. I think you just have to make sure that you're up to speed, and again, that you're doing your best to keep up with things and practice like you're supposed to. In this situation though, again, in this type of graphing, this isn't y equals mx plus b. This is the one where we ignore y and find x, which is 16. So we put it, wow, that's way out there. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, sorry. Didn't realize it was going to be off the board. And then you look at your y and ignore x, so 16y equals 160. And therefore, when you divide, you find out that y is 10, which is right here. And again, you freehand, or I'll freehand it, even though for the most part on the computer, you just got to put down the two intercepts, and you should be okay. All right. So what you need to do now is go on to your Math Excel and work for the day. Again, here's the thing. Today's work has a lot of questions in it, but those questions are all ready to prepare you for tomorrow's quiz. If you goof around and really don't get it done and don't do well on that quiz, again, I have zero sympathy for you. You have people around you. You have plenty of time to get things done. This is only about a 10-minute video, which means outside of some notes, you should have a lot of time to get some practice. So again, use the time wisely. Use the resources. Don't forget they have question help up there. They have show me how to do this example and all that stuff. So use your resources. But go ahead and go on to Math Excel. Again, there's questions from today's work in the beginning, followed by some of yesterday's work afterwards. Overall, it should last you the majority of the hour. Again, if you do finish that, I would suggest going back and finishing your past homework, because I put all your homework in for the whole quarter that's going to be there. So anything that's low, I'd say go back and work on that. Again, we're down to 1.5 weeks before your grades are set, and we have 4 more assessments that we have to be ready for. By the way, I know I put 3 on the board, but the other one is that pre-test, the interim measure that we take, and that is a semester exam, which is why I said you might want to start doing that. That interim measure is your last test, and it is going to affect you if you don't perform on it for the semester. So again, hopefully you are keeping up to things and doing what you need to do. But again, now is not the time to stop working, because you never know how one grade tomorrow or Friday or whatever can affect you for later. Also, be sure to plan on making up your tests and quizzes for the quarter. Look at your grade book again. I have everything in there as I've seen so far. Email me anything that is different. Make sure you do that. Again, if you have a 80, but I only had it as a 60 because I missed it, I don't think I would have missed it. But if that happens, make sure you communicate with me quickly. I am not doing any changes after the 15th. So all of that is your responsibility right now. You also took hits on the Chapter 4 quiz, the Chapter 5 quiz 2, also Chapter 5 quiz 3. Those are 3 quizzes you can make up. So again, just kind of check that out and make sure you're getting ready for all that. So good luck today. Again, make sure I get all my stuff back, because if there's any major issues with calculators, I just won't let you use them and you have to buy your own. So please make sure you do everything you're supposed to do. Again, I understand there's a sub, but you still got a job to do. I will see you tomorrow.